Take a deep breath, and let's hear a story about Karen, a talented seamstress from a small town who gets discovered and begins creating beautiful clothes for famous people. Karen's fingers moved with practiced precision across the delicate fabric, her breathing slow and rhythmic as afternoon sunlight filtered through lace curtains. The small sewing room in her cottage smelled of lavender and fresh cotton, a scent she had come to associate with peace. Birds chirped softly outside her window, providing a gentle soundtrack to her work as she carefully guided the material under the needle. Everyone in Meadowbrook knew that Karen created magic with her needle and thread, transforming simple fabrics into garments that seemed to capture dreams. The cottage sat at the edge of the sleepy town, surrounded by wildflowers that swayed gently in the breeze, their colors reflecting the vibrant threads that filled Karen's wooden sewing box. She had inherited her grandmother's antique sewing machine, its steady hum a comforting presence that had accompanied her through countless quiet evenings. The smooth, polished wood beneath her fingertips connected her to generations of women who had created beauty with patient hands. Karen would often pause in her work to savor the moment, grateful for the simple joy that came from creating something beautiful. Meadowbrook was the kind of town where neighbors knew each other's favorite cookies and mail carriers stopped for lemonade on hot summer days. Karen's small shop on Maple Street had a bell that chimed melodiously whenever someone entered, announcing visitors with a musical greeting that made everyone smile. The shelves inside held neatly folded fabrics arranged by color, creating a rainbow effect that delighted the eye and invited touch. Children would often press their faces against the window, watching Karen work with the same fascination they might show a magician. Karen never rushed her creations, believing that good things came from patient dedication and loving attention to detail. She would often sit in her garden in the early morning, sipping chamomile tea from a porcelain cup, letting ideas come to her like butterflies landing softly on open palms. The weight of the fabric against her skin as she draped it across her lap was grounding, connecting her to the present moment as her mind wandered through possibilities. There was something deeply satisfying about the tactile nature of her work, the transformation of flat cloth into something that could hold stories. Mrs. Jenkins had requested a special dress for her granddaughter's graduation, and Karen was adding the final touches of hand embroidery along the collar. The thread gleamed like liquid gold in the afternoon light, catching highlights as her needle dipped and surfaced through the fabric's delicate weave. The steady rhythm of her stitching created a meditative state, her shoulders relaxing as tension melted away with each completed flower. Karen's lips curved into a gentle smile as she imagined the young girl's delight when she saw the tiny constellation of stars hidden within the embroidery pattern. Eleanor Blackwood was not from Meadowbrook, and everyone noticed her elegant city clothes as she walked purposefully down Main Street. Her heels clicked against the sidewalk with authority, her tailored suit suggesting importance, and her keen eyes missing nothing as she surveyed the quaint shops. The scent of her French perfume lingered in the air, sophisticated and unexpected in this simple setting. She paused when she spotted the handmade dress displayed in Corinne's window, her manicured hand reaching out to touch the glass as if she could feel the fabric through it. The bell above Corinne's door sang its welcome as Eleanor entered the shop, bringing with her a breeze of confidence and possibility. Corinne looked up from her work, needle poised mid-stitch, and felt an unexpected flutter of something like destiny in her chest. The stranger's eyes were praising but kind, taking in the humble surroundings with growing interest rather than dismissal. "That dress in the window," Eleanor said, her voice smooth as silk, "tells me everything I need to know about your talent." Summer was fading into autumn, painting the leaves outside Corinne's window in warm hues that matched the amber tea in her cup. Eleanor had returned several times since their first meeting, each visit bringing conversations that stretched longer and revealed more about her connections to the fashion world in New York. The city sounded both exciting and intimidating to Karen, a place of bright lights and fast paces, so different from the gentle rhythm of Meadowbrook. Still, as she listened to Eleanor describe the designers and celebrities seeking unique craftsmanship, Corinne felt something unfamiliar stirring within her, a quiet readiness for change. Corinne's fingers traced the letter Eleanor had left, the elegant stationery smooth beneath her touch as she reread the invitation to come to New York. The proposition seemed impossible to leave her small shop behind and create custom pieces for famous clients whose names she had only seen in magazines. Her cat Mozart purred contentedly on her lap, unaware of the momentous decision weighing on his owner's mind. Corinne looked around at her beloved sewing room, at the familiar tools and treasured fabrics, and wondered if she could find this same piece in a bustling city. The town gathered at Rosie's diner to celebrate Corinne's upcoming adventure, their faces a mixture of pride and bittersweet sadness at her departure. Mrs. Jenkins had baked her famous apple pie, its cinnamon aroma filling the diner with warmth and comfort as neighbors shared stories of dresses made in moments marked by Corinne's creations. The laughter was genuine, flowing easily among people who had watched each other grow and change over decades of shared seasons. Corinne's throat tightened with emotion as she looked at these dear faces, recognizing that their support was a gift she would carry with her. Packing her grandmother's thimble carefully into her suitcase, Corinne wrapped it in a square of her first successfully completed quilt. The metal was worn smooth from years of use, carrying the imprint of countless stitches and silent prayers for steady hands. Outside her window, stars dusted the night sky like scattered sequins on dark velvet, a natural elegance that had inspired many of her designs over the years. The cool night air carried the scent of pine and wood smoke, familiar smells that Karen breathed deeply, storing them in her memory. As the morning sun painted the horizon in delicate pinks and golds, Karen loaded the last of her supplies into Eleanor's sleek car. The leather seats were buttery soft against her hands, the interior smelling of luxury and promise, a small preview of the world she was about to enter. Eleanor squeezed her hand reassuringly, her smile knowing and kind, as she recognized the mixture of excitement and trepidation in Karen's eyes. "Your talent deserves a bigger stage," she said softly, her words floating between them like a gentle benediction. The countryside rolled past the car windows, gradually giving way to suburbs, and then the impressive skyline of the city. Karen watched the transformation with wide eyes, taking in the increasing tempo of life as they approached New York. Buildings stretched toward the clouds, their windows reflecting sunlight, like thousands of stars appearing in daylight. The car hummed beneath them, smooth and powerful, carrying Karen toward a future she had never imagined for herself, but now seemed possible. She closed her eyes briefly, feeling the gentle weight of her grandmother's needle case in her pocket, a reminder that she carried her roots with her into this new beginning. Eleanor's penthouse apartment took Karen's breath away, not just because of its size, but because of the breathtaking view of the city stretching out below them like a living tapestry. Floor-to-ceiling windows captured the dance of light across glass and steel, bringing the city's energy inside while keeping its noise at bay. Soft classical music played from hidden speakers, creating an atmosphere of refined calm that helped ease Karen's initial nervousness. The air carried the subtle scent of fresh flowers arranged artfully on marble surfaces, their colors perfectly complementing the understated elegance of the decor. "Your workspace," Eleanor announced, opening double doors to reveal a room that made Karen's heart skip with delight. Morning light streamed through skylights onto a custom-designed sewing table of polished walnut, surrounded by organized shelves of fabrics more luxurious than any Karen had ever touched. A state-of-the-art sewing machine gleamed beside a dress form, while an entire wall displayed threads in every imaginable color, arranged like an artist's palette. The room smelled of cedar and new possibilities, a scent that would soon become associated with this new chapter in Karen's life. Sleep came fitfully that first night in the city, as unfamiliar sounds filtered through the window's distant sirens. The occasional honk of taxis, the constant underlying hum of a place that never truly slept. Karen wrapped herself in the silky sheets of the guest bed, their cool touch against her skin, a reminder of how far she was from her cotton quilts at home. Moonlight created patterns across the ceiling that her eyes traced repeatedly, as her mind raced with questions and possibilities. Eventually, the rhythmic sound of her own breathing lulled her into dreams filled with fabrics that shimmered and changed color with each stitch. Karen's first client was a Broadway actress preparing for an awards ceremony, her energy filling the workspace like champagne bubbles as she described her vision. Corinne listened carefully, her fingers already itching to begin as she envisioned how to translate the woman's personality into fabric and form. The actress moved with natural grace, her voice musical even in ordinary conversation, creating an immediate connection that put Karen at ease. As they discussed silhouettes and colors, Karen felt her initial intimidation melting away, replaced by the familiar confidence that came when she was speaking the language she knew best, that of fabric and design. Nights turned into a blur of inspiration as Corinne lost herself in the creative process, often working until dawn, painted the sky in gentle watercolors visible through her skylight. The sensual whisper of silk against her fingertips, the satisfying resistance of the needle pushing through layers of fabric, these sensations grounded her amid the whirlwind of her new life. Sometimes she would pause, closing her eyes to listen to the distant hum of the city, finding comfort in its constant presence like an ocean's steady waves. The dress was taking shape, emerging from flat fabric into a three-dimensional story of grace and quiet strength. The actress wept when she tried on the completed gown, the soft blue fabric catching the light as she turned, creating the illusion of water flowing around her. "You've made more than a dress," she whispered, her fingers tracing the intricate beadwork along the bodice that Corinne had stayed up 3 nights to complete. "You've made how I feel inside visible to the world." The genuine emotion in the woman's eyes filled Corinne with a warmth that spread through her chest like honey, sweeter than any compliment she had received in Meadowbrook. Word spread quickly through Eleanor's extensive network, and soon Corinne's calendar filled with appointments from celebrities and socialites eager to experience her unique approach to design. A quiet line formed outside Eleanor's building, distinguished people patiently waiting their turn to be transformed by the small-town seamstress with a magical touch. Corinne took each commission seriously, spending time with each client to understand not just their physical measurements, but their essence, what made them light up, what stories they carried, what dreams they held close to their hearts. Despite her growing success, Corinne sometimes felt a hollowness beneath the excitement, a longing for the simple rhythms of Meadowbrook and the familiar faces that had witnessed her journey from the beginning. On such evenings, she would brew chamomile tea in a porcelain cup she had brought from home, its chip along the rim a comforting imperfection amid the perfect luxury surrounding her. The steam would rise in lazy spirals as she stood by the window, watching the city lights flicker like earthbound stars, beautiful but somehow more distant than the constellations above her cottage. The fashion magazine feature came as a surprise, Eleanor having arranged it without telling Karen to preserve the genuine shock on her face when the photographers arrived. The seamstress with Soul, the headline would read, accompanied by images of Karen at work. Her face a study in peaceful concentration as her hands created beauty with practiced movements. The interviewer asked thoughtful questions about her process, seeming genuinely interested in understanding the mindfulness Karen brought to each creation. "I listened to the fabric," Karen explained simply, demonstrating how different materials suggested different approaches, almost like conversations between creator and medium. A famous director requested a wedding dress for his daughter, his gruff exterior softening as he described how important the day was to him. Karen recognized in his eyes the same look she had seen in the fathers of Meadowbrook, that mixture of pride, love, and wistfulness that transcended social status or wealth. She worked with special care on this project, incorporating lace from the mother's own wedding gown into a design that honored tradition while embracing the young woman's modern sensibilities. Each stitch was placed with intention, each bead secured with thoughts of blessings for the marriage to come. The bride's fitting brought tears to multiple pairs of eyes as the young woman stood before the mirror, transformed into a vision of timeless elegance that perfectly captured her spirit. The dress moved with her like a second skin, the vintage lace catching the light in a way that connected past to present in visible harmony. The director, usually so commanding on his film sets, was rendered speechless, his hand covering his mouth as he watched his daughter become a bride before his eyes. Karen stood quietly to the side, her heart full as she witnessed the magic that could happen when craftsmanship met emotion. Exhaustion began to take its toll as Karen's reputation grew exponentially, bringing requests she couldn't bear to decline despite her already overflowing schedule. The delicate skin beneath her eyes darkened. Her shoulders carried tension that didn't dissipate with sleep, and her fingers, those precise instruments of her art, began to tremble slightly after long hours of detailed work. Eleanor noticed with concern, bringing Karen tea laced with honey and gently suggesting she consider taking on apprentices to share the workload. "Your gift is too precious to burn away," she said softly, her usually businesslike demeanor softened by genuine care. The breaking point came during the creation of a gown for a high-profile charity gala, when Karen's exhausted fingers slipped and the needle pierced deeply into her thumb. The sudden shock of pain broke through weeks of accumulated stress, releasing tears that had nothing to do with the physical injury. Blood bloomed on the pristine white silk like a tiny red flower, a visible reminder of the cost of pushing beyond human limits. Karen sat still, watching the stain spread with a strange detachment, suddenly aware that something fundamental needed to change if she was to continue her journey without losing herself along the way. Eleanor didn't question Corinne's request for a week away, simply arranging for a car to take her to a peaceful retreat in the countryside where the noise of the city couldn't follow. The small cottage reminded Corinne of home, with its wooden floors that creaked companionably underfoot and windows that opened to let in breezes carrying the scent of wildflowers. For the first day, she did nothing but sleep, her body gratefully surrendering to the quiet and the absence of demands as birds sang outside her window. The sheets smelled of sunshine and lavender, cradling her in comfort as her breathing deepened into the rhythm of true rest. On the second day, Corinne ventured outside, following a path that led to a small lake whose surface reflected the sky in perfect stillness. She sat on a smooth rock at the water's edge, listening to the gentle lapping of tiny waves against the shore and watching dragonflies hover above the surface like living jewels. The air felt clean in her lungs, carrying none of the city's complexity, just the simple perfume of grass, water, and earth that reminded her of childhood summers. For the first time in months, her hands were completely still in her lap, neither creating nor planning, simply being. Dreams came easily in this place, bringing not the anxiety-filled scenarios of recent nights, but gentle memories of her grandmother teaching her to sew, the woman's gnarled hands guiding her small ones with infinite patience. Corinne woke feeling her grandmother's presence like a comforting shawl around her shoulders, carrying wisdom that seemed especially relevant now. Beauty takes the time it takes, her grandmother had often said, a philosophy that extended beyond sewing to life itself. Corinne realized she had been rushing through experiences that deserved to be savored, creating memories that blurred together rather than standing clear in her mind. A small desk by the window became Corinne's planning space, where she began to sketch not garments, but a vision for her future, one that honored both her talent and her need for balance. She imagined a studio large enough for apprentices chosen, not just for their technical skills, but for their understanding of the soul behind good craftsmanship. The pages filled with ideas for teaching programs, collaborations with ethical fabric sources, and ways to bring her work to people beyond the wealthy and famous. With each addition to her vision, Corinne felt a lightness returning, a sense of purpose that transcended the prestige she had been chasing. Eleanor arrived on the 7th day, bringing fresh pastries and coffee and a picnic basket, her city clothes exchanged for simple linen pants and a loose blouse that made her seem more approachable. They sat on the cottage porch, watching butterflies move between flowers as Corinne shared her new vision with growing confidence. To her surprise, Eleanor nodded with understanding rather than disappointment, her business mind already connecting Corinne's ideas to practical possibilities. "I brought you to New York because I saw your exceptional talent," she said, "but I stayed because I recognized your exceptional heart." Autumn had painted Central Park in brilliant hues by the time Corinne opened her own atelier, a bright space with large windows and an open floor plan that encouraged community among the small team she had carefully assembled. Young designers and seamstresses moved between workstations, their faces showing the same concentration Karen recognized from her own early days of discovery. The walls displayed not just fashion photographs, but stories letters from clients describing how wearing something made with such intention had affected their confidence, their comfort, their connection to themselves. The space smelled of creativity fabric, coffee, the occasional vase of fresh flowers brought by appreciative clients. Karen's new approach attracted a different clientele, still including celebrities who valued her work, but now also including people from all walks of life who saved for months to commission a single special piece. A teacher celebrating 30 years in the classroom, a woman reclaiming her body after cancer treatment, a young man preparing for his citizenship ceremony, each brought stories that influenced Karen's designs in ways red carpet events never had. She began keeping a gratitude journal, recording these connections that enriched her work and reminded her daily of fashion's power to honor human dignity and mark significant passages. The apprenticeship program became Karen's particular joy, especially after she discovered May, a gifted teenager from Queens whose family couldn't afford design school, despite her remarkable talent. Watching May's fingers gain confidence with each project, seeing her shy smile when clients praised her work, reminded Karen of her own journey and the power of having someone believe in your potential. Gradually, she entrusted May with more significant responsibilities, her heart swelling with pride when the girl successfully completed her first solo commission, a christening gown that would become a family heirloom. Eleanor remained a steady presence in Karen's life, their initial business relationship having evolved into a deep friendship built on mutual respect and shared values. They would often meet for Sunday brunch, discussing everything from fashion industry trends to favorite books as they shared plates of fresh fruit and warm croissants. Eleanor's sharp business acumen complemented Karen's creative vision, helping the atelier remain financially stable while staying true to its ethical foundations. Together, they created a model that other designers began to notice and respect, proof that success didn't have to come at the cost of one's soul. Meadowbrook remained in Karen's heart, and she returned regularly to reconnect with the community that had first nurtured her talent. She established a scholarship for young artists from her hometown and taught summer workshops in her old shop, which she maintained as a quiet retreat from city life. The familiar faces at Rosie's Diner always welcomed her with warmth rather than distance, proudly displaying the magazine features about their Karen on the wall by the cash register. These visits grounded her, restoring her sense of where she had come from and reminding her that true success included remembering your roots. The balance Karen had found brought a glow to her face that no amount of success alone could have created. Her steps were lighter as she moved through her atelier, pausing to guide an apprentice's hands or approve a design with an encouraging word. At night, she still occasionally worked late when inspiration demanded. But now she recognized when her body needed rest and honored that wisdom rather than pushing through exhaustion. The large windows of her apartment offered the same city views that had once overwhelmed her, but now she saw them differently, not as an intimidating foreign landscape, but as a community of lights, each representing lives and stories. On a perfect spring evening, Corinne hosted a fashion show unlike any New York had seen before, featuring designs created collaboratively with her apprentices, modeled not by professionals but by the real clients who would wear these garments in their everyday lives. The runway saw the confident stride of an 80-year-old grandmother, the determined walk of a veteran learning to use a prosthetic limb, the joyful spin of a 12-year-old celebrating remission. Applause filled the room, not just for the exquisite craftsmanship, but for the authentic beauty radiating from people feeling truly seen in their uniqueness. The letter arrived from the Fashion Council on a quiet Tuesday morning, its formal language nearly obscuring the magnitude of the honor being offered. Recognition for Corinne's contribution to sustainable and ethical fashion through her mentorship program and inclusive approach. She read it twice, sitting by her favorite window where the morning light turned her cup of tea to liquid gold. Mozart, who had eventually joined her in the city, purred on her lap as she reflected on the journey from her grandmother's sewing machine to this moment of industry validation. The award mattered less than the acknowledgement that success could be measured in lives touched, rather than just garments sold. Corinne's fingers still moved with the same practiced precision across fabric, but now each stitch carried the weight of everything she had learned about craft, about business, about people, about herself. The rhythm of her needle remained a meditation, a connection to the present moment that brought peace no matter what challenges the day might hold. Outside her window, the city hummed with its countless stories, while inside, Corinne continued to create her own thread by thread, choice by choice. Day by day, a life as carefully crafted as any garment she had ever made, rich with texture, resilient at the seams, and lined with gratitude that warmed her from within.